My name is Brenda Zada Radido. Welcome to the program, and let's start this show from the lakeside city of Kisumu, where allegations of professional misconduct involving a section of court officials and police officers have emerged. Now, police are investigating claims of collusion between some court officials and police officer who failed to hand over to the prison authorities sentenced convicts. Our Kisumu reporter Kevin Ogutu brings us details of how cartels are roaming the Kisumu law courts, extorting money from Kenyans by promising to give them justice. And so right now, I'd like us to talk to Kevin Ogutu. Ogutu, good morning, and always a pleasure talking to you here on KTN News Center. It is such a sad incident, especially for Kenyans, when it comes to losing faith, when it comes also to issues of justice along the corridors of court in Kisumu County.
Well, a very good morning, Brenda, and quite a chilly morning right here in Kisumu County. And as you aptly put it, it is suffice to say that not all is well at the Kisumu law courts, given the circumstances under which a meeting was convened on Tuesday by none other than the resident judge of the High Court in Kisumu, who is Fred Ochieng. And this meeting brought on board the two OCS police officers in Kisumu Central and one in Kondele police station. And this also brought on board a representative from the prison service, together with the Pauline Bulika, who is the deputy registrar right here at the High Court in Kisumu, and together with the OCPD in Kisumu Central, who is Anaset Kaloki. So, Brenda, this particular meeting came hot on the heels of allegations that there were professional misconduct. One allegation being that some of those committal warrants, one that is signed by the judge upon the delivery of the rulings and the judgments, which means that the accused is supposed to be taken to prison. But what is alleged is that once these committal warrants are signed, these some officials collude, and the end result is that some of these people never get to the prison. That is just but one of the allegations. Another allegation, as you've aptly put it, is that we have a number of cartels roaming the corridors of this particular law courts, purporting to be in a position to help the unsuspecting Kenyans. These people trade. From the outlook, you could imagine that they are judiciary officers, but they are not. And therefore, the issue was, how do you get rid of these characters along the corridors of courts, so that any Kenyans who come here for the sake of getting justice does not fall in the hands of this wrong group of people. Another issue was about the security of these particular buildings, given that they are government buildings. And of course, the judiciary, led by the resident judge here, Fred Ochieng, was asking why the AP officers are rarely available here. Sometimes they're available, sometimes they are not. So this is some of these really grave issues that came here, and of course occasioned this meeting that was held right here at the office of the resident judge Fred Ochieng on the Tuesday morning. And of course, now I spoke with Anaset Kaloki, who is the Kisumu Central OCPD, and he said that the investigations are already on to establish whether some people are colluding with both court orderlies together with the prison orderlies to ensure that they subvert the law, that they don't really get to the prisons as it has been determined by the court. So this is one area that has really cast a shadow on one institution that is charged with ensuring that justice is served. And therefore, it's a matter of time before they reconvene upon the completion of the investigation to see the much that they've done regarding uprooting these particular individuals from among the others who, of course, could be doing the right thing in their various offices. And of course, Brenda, one of the suggestions that were put forward, according to my trusted sources, is that there need to be planted plainclothes police officers along the corridors of these law courts to ensure that everyone who have been purporting to be in a position to help those who are seeking services here, and the most common ones being land issues and succession, whereby people tend to be at times very vulnerable. Some may not be really as educated as such. So when they meet neatly dressed people along these corridors who are basically cartels, then they are easily convinced, and they tend to believe that if they part with some money, they can be helped. The most a bizarre one, Brenda, being that they are being promised that their loved ones may not really go to jail if they part with some money, which is really pretty horrible. So it is a developing story right here at the Lakeside City. And of course, in a few days' time, the committee should be meeting once again, the key stakeholders who met once again. I forgot to mention that among those who attended that particular meeting was also the chief magistrate, who is Julius Ngarngar, of course, among the others who were mentioned earlier on that were in attendance. And therefore, Brenda, once they complete the investigations, then of course we'll be able to know which way forward. But of course it is clear that it is easier to do some of these things, like trying to get these particular cartels, because they basically walk around, identify potential clients, so to speak, and then they approach them, and because of the reasons I've mentioned above, for example, lack of proper education, or basically being desperate for services, these particular Kenyans who really thought they were handling judiciary officers end up in the wrong hands, and they part with money, and then they get nothing in return. So that's the unfortunate situation right here as we speak.
Ogutu, if you can still hear me, kindly talk to us about the identity of this alleged judicial officers and police officers whose conduct is in question.
Well, according to the structures that are here, the magistrates or the judges sign what we call the committal warrants, which are then given to the court assistants. The court assistants are then supposed to issue them to the police. Then the police are then supposed to issue them to the prison service officer, the one in charge right here, because we have prison officer orderlies and the one who is in charge of them. So once it moves from the court from the magistrate or the judge to the court assistant, then it is from that point. It is from that point in that chain that suspect that the things could really get out of hand. If at all these particular committal warrants don't get to the prison officers, who are in turn supposed to have these particular warrants together with those who have been convicted, taken to the prison. So it is at that point, it is that chain. The investigations will of course touch on the police officers. Of course, the two OCSs will be of course questioned regarding this, and of course the court assistants, where in instances where they're suspected that they didn't really hand over this particular committal warrants to the police, who are in turn supposed to hand them over to the prison officials for the transportation of this particular accused or from the court now to the prison. So that is the chain. The individuals along that chain will have to be responsible for any malpractices as alleged, and of course for it to have called for the attention of resident judge Fred Ochieng, it means that it is something that has been happening, probably, that is, and of course there must be some link somewhere. Of course, not everyone could be guilty in this case, but of course there must be individuals who will be held culpable for this particular gross malpractice in the corridors of justice and in one institution that is of course charged with ensuring that justice is served. Back to you in studio, Brenda.
All right, good from your explanation. It looks like this is not like the first time cases of corruption allegation is being talked about along the corridors of justice in Kisumu County.
Well, clearly it is not, though I may not have the statistics, but clearly this is not the first time. But and that is exactly the reason why this informed that particular meeting. And when I spoke with the Kisumu Central OCPD, Anaset Kaloki, yesterday, he told me that this is a matter that really needs serious attention, given how grave it is and how delicate the institution in question is. You can imagine going to a court where you are sure that if somebody is found guilty, won't really head to the prison as prescribed in the courtroom. So that is how bad it is. Regarding the issue of corruption, of course, there must be money involved here. For somebody to try to subvert the rule of law, there must be some sort of returns, illegal returns at stake here. And therefore, as you've aptly put it, this is not the first time the cases have been reported, and it is because of the consistency, okay, and reports and the allegations left, right, and center that informed this particular meeting that was held here on Tuesday morning. Right. Brenda.
Ogutu, and lastly, probably few might have information. When are these investigations supposed to come to an end?
Well, when I talked with Kisumu Central OCPD, Anaset Kaloki, say that they should be reconvening in not more than a week's time. But of course, this is something. So with the investigation, as he put it, it is not really clear how long it may take. But the sooner they get some leads regarding what has been going on along the corridors of justice right here in Kisumu, then they should be able to reconvene and find the way forward. Of course, some of the pointers, according to my sources, is probably trying to move the guys who've been in some positions for quite too long, because getting in one position for too long, as it has been evidenced in other instances, makes somebody get a bit comfortable, and it's very easy now to get compromised because of being familiar with your position for far too long. And those are some of the issues that they'll be looking at, trying to move people here, right here and there, so that people who come here can have that trust in the institution. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier on, it should take a week, but then if at all they get these leads there early enough, it's a matter that everyone is taking seriously, right from all the way from the prison orderlies to the resident judge and the chief magistrate, together with the OCSS and the OCPD, Kisumu Central. So that is it. They will try and do their best to ensure that once they get the leads, they'll reconvene and then chart the way forward regarding how to bring to an end this particular gross malpractice that has now rocked Kisumu law courts.
All right. Thank you so much, Kevin Ogutu, for that update when it comes to the alleged misconduct of judicial officers and police officers in Kisumu law court.